सर्वत्र गोविंद नाम संकीर्तनम गोविंदा गोविंदा सद्गुरु महाराज की जय। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे। सद्गुरु महाराज की। कलगे सुंदराकारं सदैक प्रियदर्शनम् अज्ञाननाशकं देवं सद्गुरुं मुरलीधरम् मुरलीमण्डितकरकमलं मुनिजनमोहनं व्यत्यस्तपादं वनमालाधारिणं प्रेम भक्तमण्डल नित्यकीर्तितं प्रेमिकवरदम् आश्रयेऽहम्। बुद्धिर्बलं यशोधैर्यं निर्भयत्वम् अरोगता अजाट्यं वाक्पटुत्वं च हनुमत्स्मरणात् भवेत्। सद्गुरु महाराज की जय। With the immense blessings of our beloved Guru Maharaj, Maharanyam Sri Muralidhara Swamiji, and by the causeless mercy of Sri Madhuri Sakhi Sameta Premika Varada Thakurji, we are all very fortunate to contemplate on some basic facts and truths on how to make my life more purposeful, more meaningful, and in this process, happier also. And this was actually instructed by our beloved Guru Maharaj to do this series of lectures on intelligent living. In fact, this topic which we are going to see, or which we are seeing for the past couple of days, can we live in the present moment, is a topic actually suggested by our beloved master. That can we live in the present moment? And yesterday we already discussed most of these concepts of living in the present moment. And let me quickly take through a recap. And we said that everything I do, when I do that, in everything I do, I either succeed or I learn or I do both. There is nothing called failure per se if we understand that it is a journey towards a grand purpose. And when we are, the example given is when you go to Chennai to our Premika Bhavanam, where our Swamiji stays in the first floor, you have to take a flight of steps. It's about 24. I haven't counted, it's approximate. Don't quote me on that later. And it's about 24 plus or minus 10. And when you actually walk up the stairs, until you cover all the 24, do we feel successful? Or when we take the first step, obviously not yet. So when we go to the first step, if we don't understand that this flight of steps are taking me to a grand purpose, which is worth my life, worth my breath, worth the time, then every step I would be now asking, have I reached? No. Oh, I have not reached. Is this the way you see when you climb in flight of steps? Flight of steps. Likewise, in whatever I do, if I do it deliberately, consciously, in line with a purpose, which I have defined for myself, hopefully it is in line with the universal laws called dharma. What happens is, as I keep going, I take one step, and obviously that first step may not take me there. But then, since I am clear about I am going in the journey of a purpose, Each step I take or each milestone I cross, either I succeed in crossing the milestone or I have learned something to redeploy my efforts in a more intelligent way. Or even if I succeed, I can reiterate my learnings. We can learn from positives. This or both is a very important thing to note actually. This one. It's very important to note because we don't register positives. We take it for granted. And when I was in college, you all are making me remember all these pre-satsang days of mine. There was this book called Murphy's Laws. And now if this generation does not read that book, they are at a big loss actually. There is a book called Murphy's Laws. It's a series of books. If some of you are shaking your heads, I guarantee you are 40 plus. And those were the time when this used to rule the roost, as they say. And if you don't understand what rule the roost means, you are less than 20 years, you see. And so the basic premise of Murphy's Law is, if anything can go wrong, it will. Okay. And they did tremendous corollaries to those laws. And each corollary is dead on right. You see, for example, I'll give you a corollary of Murphy's Law. The corollary of Murphy's Law says that if you have a peanut butter sandwich in your hand, okay, this is exactly the corollary. And an oops moment happens and it drops down. The probability that the peanut butter side of the sandwich will hit the floor is directly proportional to the cost of dry cleaning your carpet. You see. More expensive it is to dry clean the carpet, 100% peanut butter side only will fall down. I can see a lot of nodding here. And like that, if you are in Chennai and if you are 40 plus, there are two buses which ply near our Premikabanam, 17D, 3017. 17D is a bus number, 37D is another bus number. Whenever I used to wait for 37D, the first bus which will come would be 17D. And I thought 17D, high frequency. That's what we say in Chennai. Nalla frequency for 17D. If you want to go to Vadalar Nagar and stand in your pillar bus stand, and 37D is what you want, first 17D. And then I used to think, my goodness, Murphy is incredible. Murphy works both in Chennai and Chicago. Universal. Murphy's Laws. And the basic premise is, if anything can go wrong, it will. And it has a lot of things, and some of which you can agree. If you come early to office, your boss comes late. And if you very rarely come to office late, generally the boss who comes late is on time that day. Murphy's Law. No, when you are in the 17th floor of your building, I've read all the 10 volumes, okay? And this stuck in me. If you want to go to the 10th floor and you are in the first floor, then the lift is always in the 10th floor. But if you want to get down from the 10th floor, lift is in the first floor. And in Delhi, we say, har samay hota hai waise hi. Always happens this way. You see, idalanda Murphy's Laws. And actually speaking, and Walmart Murphy's Law, I will tell you. Or if you're Sam's Club, Costco, I have no personal brand problem. Okay, any brand. The other line moves faster. Have you ever seen that? That's Murphy's Law. And in Tamil, Murphy's Law is very beautifully encapsulated as Ikaraiki Akkara Pacha. If you see from this side of the river, the other side is always greener. And if you go to the other side, that side is greener. And this is a Murphy's Law for a cow. Obviously, we don't care about but it's a cow's Murphy's Law. You see? So you say, go, Murphy, go. And the go Murphy's Law. So this is what is Murphy's Law. You see? And that is the reason why. And I used to think a lot about how come Murphy's Law work. Generally, probabilities you say, at least 50-50 should be there. Something can go wrong, something can go wrong, not go wrong, etc. Murphy's Laws work because of an anthropological principle. That's what these anthropologists party have said. And the vartha solradhula pranam varudhu. Those people study human behavior, evolution and all that. And they believe that humans used to live in caves, etc. And slowly humans evolved and all that stuff. So suppose there is a Neanderthal man, okay, in a cave. And middle of the night, this Neanderthal, ellame en tongue twister Alaga Mukundan, Madhavan, Govindan, Neanderthal man. Neanderthal Manidan. நம்ம என்ன சொல்றோம் முயன்றதால் மனிதன். But anyway, I'm sorry, I'm not. Let's come back to the topic. I'm getting too much digressed because I thought about Murphy's law and it brought me a very different perspective. Okay. The Neanderthal man, the caveman, opens his eyes in the middle of the night and he sees two bright spots in the mouth of the cave. Would he say, wow, two bright new stars in the horizon possibly? Or would he shout, leopard, wake up and run? You see, guess that Neanderthal man chose to actually look at it in a very negative standpoint. And guess what? That's why we are all here, it seems. If it had been a very naive optimist alone, with a very insecure environment, we wouldn't have survived. So he always went for the negative perspective, or he always imagined the worst, and so we survived. And they say as the man evolved, human evolved, imagining the worst remained with us, even though we live in a relatively secure society. And this thought that registering the negatives carefully followed us, it seems, to this day, when we don't need to really do that to that extent, but it is sort of ingrained and embedded in us to register the negative. And that's why one of those very famous authors, I think his name is Rick Harris, I'm not sure, I read it quite a while back. He gave a very nice metaphor to understand this positivity, negativity registration. He said our mind is a Velcro for negativity and Teflon for positivity. Teflon is basically non-stick, you see. And Velcro, you all know, you see. It sort of attracts fibers everywhere. So this human mind as a default tends to be more tilted towards registering the negatives and carefully preserving it as an archive inside than registering the positives, because that's how in the evolution of humans looks like we survived all those shocks and all those different attacks we might have had millions or not millions, thousands or 10,000s of years back. And hence, since I don't register positives and I generally carefully register negatives, Murphy's law work. Because whenever I stood in the bus stop and my bus came in, I just get into the bus without even registering, wow, I got the bus today, you see. But then when I don't get the bus, all these things starts getting registered in me. And the same thing with when I'm in a hurry and the lift or the elevator, as you call it, is ready, I don't even register. I just get in and get on with my job. I'm too busy to notice all these things. But when I am in a hurry and the lift is not in the floor I want it to be, it's carefully registered. You get the hang of what I'm saying, isn't it? And that is why Murphy's law rocks actually. And how do I reverse it? How I reverse it is, there is this principle or extension of a principle. These generally, this neurologist and the eye specialist, they say there is a principle called reticular activation system, it seems. They call it RAS. RAS, reticular activation system. This RAS is the one which makes you wake up and all that stuff. Jakrat. From your swapnam to Jakrat state, whatever principle takes you to waking up and start noticing. But then most of the time, even when we are awake, we are half asleep, which means I don't register a lot of things even when I'm awake. What makes me to activate this system of registering through my eyes? Reticular kannu. And activation means that which sort of triggers and inspires it to start looking properly, seeing properly. And it is a system. Is what is called as intention. You see, when you have an intention, not an unconscious or subconscious, non-deliberate, default, embedded intention. If we can somehow deliberately have an intention, then the way we look changes, it seems. Our intention filters what we see. And we don't need a physiologist to tell us that. It's our experience. And the common experience I've heard from many of you when I do programs for corporates is, when you buy the first Toyota Corolla, that's a correct example. When we buy the first Toyota Corolla, and then you are taking it from your dealer to the home, suddenly you start noticing a lot of Toyotas and Corollas on the road. And anga oru Corolla, inga oru Corolla. And soon you will find too many Corollas on the road, which you never noticed until I started imagining myself to be, I'm a Corolla owner now. They also make a big deal. They make a big key and give you. Rumari comical, you also get it and get it photographed, and we post it in social media and all that, right? So now I have an intention, I have a different filter. I'm a owner of a Corolla. If it is Lexus, it gets even more, you see. And the moment I have that intention, suddenly I find many of the same brands in the road. Not because everybody thought this is the right time. Akshay Tirthi anikku ellarum car vaangala, nobody bought. These cars were always playing in the road. I did not notice it because my intention filter did not allow that to be registered inside. Of the many things that I see, how many data points are there when I see? If you want to understand that, you have to ask these interface people. They say GUI and all that. The interface people in computers, they tell pixels. How many pixels are there in your 4K TV? And the eyes are taking all these colors, all these images. And imagine how much the brain has to process if it has to pay attention to everything. Thankfully, the brain has a filter. It will only take what it wants to take, the intention. If I'm a speaker in a big group of 1,000 people, and I am telling a point which I think is very abstract, and I'm hoping that the people will understand, my eyes filters shaking heads, not bald heads, not the color of the hair, otherwise it will blur it out. It will only focus on how many heads are shaking. Oh, more than 50% heads are shaking, so it's okay. It's because my intention is, I want to see how many people are nodding to this type of a point, which I think may be a little difficult point to understand, you see. So what I see and what I register are two different things, because in between what I see and what I register or what I acknowledge in my head, etc., there is a filter. And they say there is a bunch of neurons behind your eye and all that stuff. You see, I have never seen it. And that bunch of neurons serve as a filter which does the job of our day-to-day living very simple and very manageable. And that filter is not a fixed filter. It is a plastic filter. It can be modified. What modifies that filter is my intention. And so the reason why I just said or both is because when positive things happen, if we want to enhance our optimism and positivity, we need to start registering positive things which happen around us. As simple as that. Register the positives. And then I brought a new filter. Then I start noticing the positives better. And since I start noticing the positives better, there is another principle I'm going to talk about today. It is a principle, very technical principle, simple if you want to know. What fires together, wires together. You see, neurons, all these nerves, na, if two types of thinking process are firing together, na, they are wired now. You see, for example, in the morning, if I have the intention, I want to note the positives today, and then I start noticing stuff there. Now there is something which is firing, which is my intention. Filters are firing now. And now I have an intention, I will see only positives. Na? Slowly what happens, as I go and reinforce this behavior again and again and again, I start becoming a person who effortlessly starts looking for the positive, because what fires together are wired together. Now I don't have to take tremendous effort to become positive. That is what we say in a practice. As we keep practicing, that practice becomes a new circuitry in our brain. And that becomes an effortless way to look at the world, etc. So a little tough stuff we do will make it effortless, which is what in spirituality we say sadhana and sadhya. As we keep doing sadhana, there are some circuits. Mind in vandale, brain dane. You see, now I've heard some people say, down to, we discussed this last weekend also, down to what type of thoughts we have, people are able to map what chemicals are secreted in the head for these type of thoughts. And when people say mind is jadam, obviously consciousness has to be something beyond that. That's beyond the point. But here, as we keep noting the positives, they say, 30-day challenge. If you do something for 30 days, it will stick together. 1 week, let's do 21-day challenge. Each one has their own number. It also depends on how earnest I am and how intense I do. Generally, in our Sanatana Dharma, we have a number. It's a very holy number. It's called Mandalam. 48 naal. If you do anything for 48 days in a row, our rishis have said that practice becomes a routine for you. That practice will give lasting returns. And for the circuit in our brain to rewire, possibly, they must have found out that this repetition should happen in a routine way for 48 days, possibly. I don't know. And that's why when you do a Kumbhabhishekam in a temple, they do Mandala Puja. So that once the divinity is out there, to stabilize it 48 days, it becomes a stable thing. And generally, that's what we do. Even for many pujas, we have 48 days, 48 days, 48 to make it a default for us. And 48 days, you put an effort. 49th day, it will become easy. See, they understood our psychology very well. Suppose I tell you something and say, this has to change in you forever. Now I have never seen it. Na? And now the demand is forever. Na? I become very intimidated. So I have to cut this problem into something easy for me to handle. So they say, 48 days you do it. Leave it. But if you do it properly for 48 days with the right intention, aligned to the purpose, even if you leave it, it won't leave us because it has been hardwired inside. That is the psychology behind all our mandala, etc. So here, the important change we may have to do, if we are not already doing it, is registering the positives which happens around me. Because generally, the good that men do is often buried, and the evil is often, persisting. You see, it remains back. I think it is in Julius Caesar. The good is often interred with the bones, but the evil is not. So be it with Caesar or something like that. Exam So when good things are not registered, we tend to forget it. So register positives. How do I register positives practically? Very simple. What I need to do is every day at some point of time, let me recollect the whole day's events and say what went right today. That's a deliberate question we need to ask. If you write down, even better. Obviously, people said just thinking abstract versus writing down makes a big difference, whether it is goal setting or whether it is intentions or affirmations or whatever. You write down. So when we write down what went right today, let me write it down. You see, small habits every day. And then you say A, B, C. Initially, it will be very difficult. You see, initially, because I am not used to it, it didn't fire and wire together. So it will first tell you, first let me write down what all didn't go well today. You don't have to write down, it's very carefully written inside. So what I need to do is start writing down and registering what went right today. I write it down. And then they had a very beautiful way to bring gratitude into it. They said, write down what went right today. For example, if you are working in an office, today's meeting went really well, you see, and people were very happy with my analysis, etc. And you write it down. Today the meeting went very well. Then ask the question, why did this meeting go well today? Next question, you see. Then you start writing, possibly because I prepared. I prepared well for the meeting. Or the people who work for me prepared my notes for the meeting very well. Or my subordinates did a good job of preparing it for me. Or my training in that engineering I did or MBA I did, they taught me all these tools and that helped me in the meeting. So now when you say why, do you see automatically gratitude flows in? And the moment he said, my subordinates prepared this and that's why I sort of hit it well in the meeting, that naturally opens the windows of gratitude. You see, you don't have to say, I'm thankful for, you don't have to do that. What went right, why it went right. And the moment I answer why it went right, it automatically becomes gratitude for me, which is another wonderful wiring we can actually hardwire in our head for a happier life, you see. And so when we start registering positives also, whenever I succeed, in the company which I used to work, they brought in the system. They systemized it, which is the beauty of, I guess, this nation. We used to have systems earlier. Unfortunately, it got into all these Victorian attacks, I guess, and then we started looking down upon our system. Now it is time for us to bring it back. That system is called rituals, you see. It was a system. It was a late system called rituals. So every day morning we had a ritual. And we had a ritual for the whole day. We have a ritual for going back to. So they brought in routines which can hardwire such positivities in our head. Every day morning, open and feel grateful. That's our system, na? As a ritual. Oh, this religion, ritualistic. If you don't have this ritual, you're going to create your own ritual. But these rituals are time-tested rituals, which has been investigated by really intelligent people called rishis. And they gave us the rituals now. Why should we reinvent the wheel, you see? And so when we have a system, it helps us to sustain. Otherwise, 1 week I did, next week I didn't do. Why? Because I'm not used to a system, you see. There are various layers of thinking. Do the job is work-related thinking. How do I do a job properly? Process thinking. How do I get this process in place so that nothing goes wrong? System thinking. What are the systems I really need in this place so that the whole thing works very nicely like an oiled apparatus? Is called policy thinking. And as we progress in life, whether in corporate or even in our own life, we need to start thinking higher and higher. And the highest level thinking is the purpose thinking. What policies should I put in place so that the purpose is solved? This is what we used to do in India for 8,000 years, 9,000 years, you see. We designed the entire personal life and social life like that. Now we are reinventing it back from these wonderful corporates who have embraced it, understanding let purpose drive the whole chain. Let purpose drive the policy. Let policy drive the system. Let system drive the processes. Let the processes drive the workflow and the instructions. And as I progress in my hierarchy of managing this, I go higher and higher and higher, which means right from how do I get this job done to how do I get the right person to run this business. You see, that's how you progress now. The same thing we also need to progress. And we need a system. And we need to be used to a system so that systemic thinking becomes my default. Then any change I need to make in my life, I can somehow dovetail that into my systemic thinking. Do you get what I'm saying? And so, easiest way to make it regular is very simple. We can just make it a ritual before food. You see, you need what is called as, let me write it down for you. You have something called C and then B and let me call it C, CBC. Or I'll make it even interesting for you. You like this, na? Okay. There is always a cue. There is a trigger. Huh? That's what will drive us, the wired mind, to an action. There is a trigger. Simplest trigger is our Dr. Pavlov trigger. You see, something is cooking inside, na, thana. You see, slowly our mouth start watering because there is a trigger inside that somebody is cooking something which you like, and that's a cue, that's a trigger. And now naturally an action happens in me, and now even if I'm not hungry, I say maybe I should text a little bit. Gone, you see, and then there is a consequence. So you have a cue, and cue na CUE. You have a trigger, and then you do something as a behavior because of the trigger, and the behavior has a consequence. So when I have to do something new in my life, I need to actually pin down what is the cue for me to do it so that I don't miss it. And generally, the best way to put a cue is, if somebody is regularly going to office on time, the best way is, let me do a pillion ride on that person so that he will push me to make sure that I somehow follow my routine. We have such stuff now. If I want to go to office on time, I look at somebody who always is on time and I try to ride share with that person. And that would give me the cue to sort of ensure that I am in office for time. And the Mari, it's called the pillion riding or ride on the back or something like that, right? So the best way is ride on the back of established routines. And the easiest, most established routine is this. Na? In India, we say this and this. We have to say this. Established routine. You see? So because we have this, this brain is, there is a gut brain also, they say. Gut brain. And it need not work with this brain. That's problem. So it has its own way of intelligence. It knows how to take care of all these stuff. Thankfully, it takes care of, once we put it in, it takes care of the rest, you see. And so, sapad, food is a good cue for us. So that's the reason why, in traditional societies, they say, do this before food. For two reasons. First, the food is a good, proper routine established, and it will help you. And generally, we tend to relax a bit after food, because once the hunger is appeased, we become a little relaxed. And serious job is not possible immediately after food. So always the cue is food, and best is done before food. So they used to do all this before food, or before tea, or before coffee, or whatever it is, or as soon as I wake up. You see, sleeping is also a perfect routine. Kaya, Piya, Soya. So either we have to do something with sleep as the cue for us. So I can say every day before I go to sleep, let me push this routine. Or every day when I wake up in the morning, let me do this routine. Typically, registering the positives is done with sleep as the cue. And we say, anyway, I have to spend some time before going to sleep. Let me now review the whole day and say what all happened right. Let me write it down. If you journal it, even better, because there are a lot of positives in journaling. The positives in journaling is, generally there is throwback. We understand that more online now. There are throwback pictures. Many times when I look at the journal, when I'm feeling low, for example, and I need a little inspiration, I look at my own journal, and 1 year back, these things went right. Now you relive that experience. And you get a portion of that happiness without any doubt. Happiness has two types of happiness. One is the happiness which comes from smaranam, that which comes from remembrance. And another happiness comes from experience. Experiential happiness and happiness from memory are the two types of happiness. Says a book called Vedanta Paribhasha's first slokam. And the incredible researcher called David Kahneman, or I don't know how to pronounce his name, Kahneman, I think. And he did research on this principle and gave some very practical applications for even people like tourist operators, where he said this is the ideal package for a person who stays in a place like Houston to go to Switzerland. Don't make him stay for more than 3 days, because his memory of that happiness is very important. because that's when he's going to tell others it was an incredible trip. You should go to Switzerland. You see, for example, if you make it 10 days, na porum porum hedo. You see, if you make it only 1 day, then you won't have that strength of that memory. If you make it 10 days, the experience will give a negative memory. That's why he said manipulative and and distracting. So here, when we look back at the journal, we get that happiness, we get that energy, we get that confidence. I did that last year. I think I can do it now, because the mind cannot by its own accord, when it's feeling down, cannot look at the past positives to pull itself up. Journaling can help us when you have positive journaling like this, you see. And that is the reason why the cue could be, before I go to sleep, at least let me give an account of what happened today, positives, and ask this question, why? And with gratitude, I feel good, I go to sleep. And when I wake up, if you want to do meditation, etc., the moment you wake up, just freshening up a little bit and then doing meditation is the ideal time, because mind was already in the state of rest. And now it is awake. And before we get into this too much of activity, it is always good to use that time. The calm mind is going to aid us. That's a cue for us to do meditation. Or we can imagine the consequence also to fortify it and understanding. Try it. Na? And when you try journaling, you feel grateful. Na? At that point of time, pause and said, what am I feeling right now? Remember yesterday we talked about it, awareness of the feeling. It's not only for negatives, for also positives. I'm feeling good. So I have put a small wire up there, which tells me or tells my brain or mind or whatever, hey, this is nice, you see. And that's how I believe all these marketing advertising companies, they work on the same principle. They work on cue, behavior, consequence, you see. And instead of saying this drink has, these are the constituents, when I drink it, I feel so refreshed. Now they're giving a consequence and they're enticing calm, you see. And when you are hungry, they have this melting cheese and all that, and that's a big photo for you. That's a cue. So we are being played, okay? Either they play us with a consequence or they play us with a cue. Intelligent people, they take it because they want to, rather than being played. So I can have my own cues, I can have my own consequences clear, because otherwise I get influenced by what is projected as a cue and a consequence of the society. I live a second-handed life. I don't decide my cue and my consequence, then my life remote control, you see. So I decide my cues. I decide my cues so that I have a routine, and that's what we call rituals. And those rituals give me the power to run my life, because I plan it. I have put it as a routine, and I shall use that cue na trigger, the trigger to do this. And once you do it for 48 days, automatic item. You see, when you wake up, immediately Sri Hari, whatever, our morning routines comes automatically. And that is the reason why, to start with, let us start recording positives. Let us start recording positives, that this happened right today. Because especially now, when our regular life has been greatly disturbed, our regular routines have been greatly disturbed, when the mind is a little restless, this is the time for us to enhance our boost of positivity, isn't it? And for us to do that, best way is notice the positives. It can be something like, இன்னைக்கு ரசம் நல்லா இருந்ததே, ஒரு rare event இருந்தா, you can write down, today rasam was very good. Why? She cooked well today. Then you feel grateful to the spouse B, I'm sorry. And this is how we bring in a routine. We need it now to register the positives. And then after you register the positive, pause to cover the third scene. It is called consequence. This one here, consequence, you see. And so this is what is cue. And the cue means a trigger. And if I make it a routine and practice it, then I start doing what I need to do. And then I have a consequence. Yesterday there was a question. I make grand routines, plans, but yet I don't follow up with it because I have not thought through my schedule. I have to think through the schedule with a clear D is between two C's, you see. And so I need to start looking at, if I have to do that, do a little bit of a prior homework, which cue would trigger me to do it, and what would be the consequence? How do I register the positive consequence of doing also? Would give you the little more energy to continue it next day, next day, next day. As simple as that. You see, everything has a consequence. So that's why we said that everything I do, I either succeed or learn or both. I should say, and both. I need to learn. Generally, we say, let us learn only from negatives and all that. We learn from positives also. We need positive reinforcement also, you see. And that's why most of the companies today, I've seen, generally when I go and talk to them, I find them adding two things and the project is over, which we can use it for our day-to-day life. First thing is things gone wrong report. What went wrong report? It's called TGW. And things gone right report. What went right in the project? What should I reinforce more? If I neglect to reinforce, I am creating a problem, because the general nature of any system is decay. You see, the general nature of nature is decay. In thermodynamics, it's called entropy. That's what it is. So if we don't sustain a positive loop in a system, it will decay. And positive reinforcement will stabilize the system and maybe even make it better. If we think the system is running, why touch it? Some systems may run without touching, and some systems will run only when we reinforce it. Our mental system needs positive reinforcement. How do we do positive reinforcement? Remember the third C, Q, which is the trigger. When I get the trigger, I'm reminded I have to do this. Once I do it, as a consequence, I pause for a bit. It is done. And then suppose I have this checkbox and I put a tick. For a few seconds, see how fulfilled or at least a little contented we feel. Register that also. Otherwise, you don't notice. Mind does not automatically register. You have to use that filter of registering. Yes, I did it. It felt good to me. And that creates a new wire there, because these two are fired together. They are wired together. Next time when I want to do it again, this cue will fire and this consequence will fire. And as I keep firing it again and again and again, they are wired together. And if I want to dewire it for some other purpose later, I now have the greater systemic habit of wiring and rewiring. That will help me to be even more adaptive. You see, now I've gone to the next level. When I want a process to be in place, I use the system of wiring and firing together. So it's wired, which means automatic, effortlessly. I start doing it. And effortlessly, I start feeling happy about it. I record the positive. But then, because I have followed the system of wiring and rewiring, that systemic approach to my life is going to help me even when I have to create a new process tomorrow. I hope you get this. And you know why most of the jnanis, most of the philosophers, most of these great rishis of the past were all rajas. And even the vidya of attaining yoga through practice and sadhana was called Raja Yoga. It was because they were used to the system of wiring. You see, as a Raja, they want systems. As a Raja, they had routines. As a Raja, they had this passion to, if I don't finish it, I'm not leaving it. Will a Raja say, two Rajas are fighting, two kings are fighting? Nadula, they have to see it until completion. So until it is over, they can't come away from the field. It is true for everything. When they have to decide, they will call a council, shut the door. Without we deciding, we are not going out. They had what is called in Tamil Pidivadam. They had what is called persistence. And that persistence was hardwired for them. So when this Raja, son of Gadi, called Vishwamitra, decided to attain the divinity, it became easy for him. Even though the path was not easy, but the system was easy for him. He didn't give up. That's beauty. You see? So we have that ability in us to follow the system of wiring, rewiring. It's a joyful thing. When you like working with Legos and making new models, etc., we can also work on, let me try this and take it as an adventure. And once we do it, I'm going to show you the 4 steps of transformation. This will aid in the movement from the second step to the third step. So that's one thing. Yesterday we talked about acceptance. So all this is a recap and adding a little more. We are going a little more. This is how we learn in India. How we learn in India is we don't cram knowledge. For example, how we learnt lot of things like Bhagavatam or other Vedantic principles from our Swamijis, he will tell one small verse from a scripture like Bhagavatam. Today he will sit down, Janmadhyasya yataha, avdini he will give an explanation. It's only one verse, there are 18,000 left. And after that, he will go back, we'll think about it. Then he will come back, and then we'll be ready with the next slide. Dharma Projitan, we'll be ready for the next verse. Then Janmadhyasya yataha. Now he'll go deeper. You see? He will go deeper and we get a deeper perspective of the same verse. Then the next day, again, Janmadhyasya yataha. In about 20 days, 18,000 slokas essence is got in one verse. You see? That one verse encompasses the knowledge of 18,000 verse. And after we got deep dive into that, remaining stuff would be a breeze. You see? And that's what we need to do here. Deep focus, get into that habit of deep focus, deep attention. It can be channelized anywhere we want. Once we actually say, I'm going to start with small goals and I'm going to use the CDC model, which is a safe model, where it is a cue and then you have a doing, which is a deed or a behavior, and then you have a consequence. And I want to use this wonderful 3 simple parts of behaviors to get into this mode of, if I want, I can bring in a new behavior, gives you that higher level wiring. I'm sure there is some area in the head which works on system, which works on day-to-day problems, which works on the immediate decisions. And more, I bet, I'm not a brain surgeon or whatever, the more you go system, I'm sure it is more deeper and deeper inside the head somewhere, you see. And that is the reason why we need to start doing it. Whether you really need it or not is secondary, but I need the system of wiring my head so that if I want to change, I can, you see. And that will help me in my journey also. And that's what we talked about. Register the positives is a very important thing for us to live in the present, because unless I consciously not register a positive, the mind, when it is left to itself, is going to carefully engrave negatives on stone, you see. And that is the reason why we need to register the positives. And now let's go to acceptance, which is again a new behavior we have to take. And I gave you a cue yesterday. What is the cue? When something irritates us, when our needs are not fulfilled, when we expect something from somebody and it doesn't happen, that's the cue for us to watch acceptance. Because it's simple logic. You don't even have to listen from me. Suppose somebody comes and tells me, if I'm working in corporates, long time back, he says, Ram, you got a raise, 50% raise for you. Would I go, why sir? Would I ever ask? Chup chap will take the letter, quickly sign before something happens, seal the deal and get on. I don't even ask why. But somebody calls me and says, Ram, 25% pay cut na. First question, why? You see, because that's the acceptance problem. So when there is a challenge, when the expectations are not met, when there is an irritant, that's our cue to wire acceptance from. You see, be always accepting is not possible. For always, what will do? I would say the cue for acceptance is when there is a little resistance outside, when there is a little bit of a, expectation not met, need not met. Now that's the cue. That's the trigger for me to, now I'm getting irritated. Good, let me see whether I'm accepting. That's the cue for us. And we also said acceptance is not agreement. Acceptance is not resignation. Acceptance is not fatalism. Acceptance is not defeatism. Acceptance is not this. You see, acceptance is, first thing, not to fight the dead past now, because the past is dead. Don't fight. In Ramayana, our Ramachandra Prabhu says, all enmity, all problems perishes once something is dead. You see? So what happened in the past is dead. So don't fight with it. Because if we fight with what happened in the past, we lose. Only always. Because it's over. You can't change. Can you? And so any could have, would have, should have is fighting with something when I've already written my declaration of defeat. DOD. And now I am trying to fight with something which is certainly won over. The results are declared. And if you want a different way to look at it, suppose there is a door out there, it's an open door, and there is a wall out here. Okay, I have to get out. How do you think an intelligent person will get out? Through the door, right? If you said through the door, bravo. But non-acceptance means I go straight away and hit my head in the wall. Why is there not a door here? Why is there not a door here? Comical, na? Mentally, that's what we are doing in non-acceptance. When there is a door of can be open, I am hitting my head on a wall of could have, would have, should have. You see? And what is the result of this? Pain in the head or in the neck. You see? We are creating the pain in the neck. You see? Why? Because we are hitting our head in a place where there is no door. If you say it is a hermetically sealed place, then I can understand. There is a door, sir. There is a door called possibility. There is a door called purpose. There is a door called what can be and what needs to be. Use the door. Get out of this. You see? Is what I'm saying. I'm not saying stay and resign to the fate. Huh? People use the word accept in that sense. That's why I'm trying to empty the cup here. Acceptance does not mean defeatism. Acceptance does not mean no, it's not that. Acceptance means this has happened. I can't change the past. And so rather I focus on what I can influence, which is the future. And so I shall focus on what can be and what needs to be. What needs to be is clearly fixed because I'm clear about the purpose. What can be is my genuine need, shows the path in future. What can be is learned from the experience. What needs to be is clearly pre-decided by my genuine purpose and my milestones to go to that purpose, which is what is called a need in between. So need is already taken care. The door is open door. You see, the open door. Need, what I need. But then I don't look at the door. That's not intelligence. And there is another door near the open door, a slightly closed door, but not locked. That's called what can be. So imagine whenever I'm irritated, am I trying to find a door in a wall and try to hit my head on the wall? You could have told me, I could have told me. Now two people, so you look at an open door which is needs, and then you look at a closed door but not locked door called possibility. We need to wire it now. See? And how do I wire it? That's why I gave you the 12 o'clock challenge. I hope Sabka Barani Baja, but still 12 o'clock is what we needed to, just practice it. Small time so that we understand what it is. And a lot of people wrote to me. And I think many also wrote to that link. And I got some very interesting stories. And so that is working. Obviously, you have really taken it seriously, which is very delightful for the speaker, because I assure you, this is something which can change somebody's life, relationships, perspective, positivity. Small thing, but big palan. Analpa prayasa, alpa prayasa, analpa pride. And that is the reason why we asked. So here, acceptance has three things. Remember this. We don't fight the past. And whenever we are catching ourselves fighting the past with a could have, would have, should have, imagine this example. when I have two doors, visualization is a very powerful capability we have, you see. And generally they say visualization happens in the prefrontal cortex. Visualization. At times you magnify, at times you diminish. That's why it's called the temple. Temple. That's why we say thala eluthu. You see, if you know how to visualize positively and go, na thala eluthu dane. Illana, if you do this, na thala eluthu dane. So this is where our capability to visualize, to give us the necessary strength and energy and spirit to make the change happens. And that's why I'm giving you visuals, metaphors. That when I am catching myself saying could have, would have, should have, I'm trying to hit myself in a wall. If at least it is like a properly sealed place, now it makes sense. At least I'm trying. But there are two doors here. One door is open. Breeze is flowing from the door. You see? Yet you say, doesn't matter. Then you're not intelligent, you see. And then the second thing is, when we are actually having another door called possibility, that possibility needs to be practiced. It is not default. And now when it is not default, I need to rewire it. And so when I do that, remember these two. Acceptance means let my genuine need, which needs to be fulfilled. It is not fulfilled now. It is not a no. It is a not yet. The moment I think it's a no, then I fight with the past. The moment I am understanding it's a not yet type of a problem, then I am trying to look at the future. So how will I get it fulfilled? So this few letters make all the difference when we start thinking it different. This is not about language or semantics. It is about the way I look at a problem. You see? So when I look at something and say, is my need fulfilled? And the answer from within is truly not yet, then the obvious question is, then when? You see? Then how? Etc. And then I use my genuine need of the future guide the present endeavor now. And then I suddenly look at a need door. When I look at the door next to the need door, which is half open, is also open now for me. Need door is my cue for me to look at possibility. Otherwise, the mind is very busy fighting the past. It completely shuts itself off, I guess, to the various possibilities for a solution, for harmony, etc. So acceptance does not mean I have a need, I disregard the need. Absolutely not. And please don't use the word have to and accept together, because it becomes a very discordant in my ear. When I hear I have to accept, then you have not understood. Let me start from first. Because the moment you say have to accept, now you have not accepted. You see, you are still going back, hoping that there were other paths there. Do you see what I'm saying? Because after 2 hours of talking to somebody, they finally said, yeah, I understand, I have to accept. Come, sit down again. You see, you didn't understand. There is no have to here. Need means you choose the possibilities. There is no have to at all. The moment we keep on telling ourselves, I have to, are another problem. Have to and I'm forced to. What choice do I have? The point is, let's not get into the technical aspects of what are the choices I have, I don't have. Now I want to look at how do I make myself more stronger? How do I make myself more positive? If the problem which we want to solve is I want to enhance my positivity, then that problem statement is perfect. Then you will be in agreement with what I say. If the problem is, I don't think it will work now, whatever I say won't work because the cup is full. So the perspective here we are trying to take is not to solve our day-to-day problems. It is to strengthen us, to empower us to solve the day-to-day problems. So for us to be empowered to solve these day-to-day problems with positivity, the best way is start understanding that there is nothing which says I have to, I got to, etc. This so-called excising of the willpower for this day-to-day stuff is one way of dealing with it. Another way is allow purpose to pull you rather than willpower. Willpower means conflict, right? What does willpower mean really? Have you really gone inside and seen? I want to, but I can't. is one way to do it. Other one is, I really wish I can, but I have to. Who is this two eyes inside? Huh? What are the two eyes? I have to. So who stops you? I only. Na? Make singular into plural and create all the problem. Willpower is dividing our mind. Have you seen it? I got to do it. You don't got to do it. You don't have to do it. But you need to do it because as a singular entity called the mind, I have decided this is the purpose and this is the path I have to take. So when I say this is the path I have to take, I feel as if I am bound. I have to do it. And I lose a lot of my capability to think possibility is what I believe. When we say I need to do it, and these are the possibilities, maybe there are only two possibilities. At times, yes or no is the only possibility. Still, I have a possibility there. And when I embrace it as, given the circumstances, let me go in this path because I need to go there, you are more empowered entering into that path. The moment we fret, the moment we see the situation as I have no other choice, and be a candidate for the pity party, we can't do anything, you see. And that is the reason why acceptance means that I embrace my past, it is done. I can't change it. I won't fight with it. I'd rather look at what was the need, which is the need right now, and what is the action I can take so that the need would be fulfilled in future to the best of my lights, you see. And that's what I said, let my genuine need. Because when we are hitting that wall out there, I may need a hole in the wall, you see. But that's not my genuine need. I forgot my genuine need now. Now it is more important. Why it didn't happen yesterday becomes more important than what needs to happen to get it done tomorrow, you see. And that's the reason why let my genuine need guide the present. And of course, we learn from the rich experience of our own life, which is the experience by a non-judgmental reflection, which means I do not think I should have done that. Again, you're getting back to that should have, could have. So you reflect saying, this is what I didn't do. And this is what I can do in future, you see. I don't even like shall do. There is no shall also. Possibility. And once I am convinced about I can do this, then I will do it. That's nadula shall. So here I learned from my experience with a non-judgmental reflection. Non-judgmental because I should not get back to the loop of non-acceptance. When I reflect back, and then this should have happened, that should have happened, etc. Now it is, I should have done it, you should have done it, etc. You see? And so, non-judgmental reflection, you see? It is still mirroring. I think it's switched off. Somebody pulled something out. It's sleep mode? Okay. Yeah. Yes. All right. It's not allowing the acceptance problem. It's not accepting my acceptance slide. Okay. Let's accept that. And so we have a wonderful way to look at how we determine what we do now, which is what is intelligent living in the present moment. I have a past, I have a future, right? And this black line is now. Do we want to be goaded by the past, or should I be guided by the future? My future purpose, my future need. Let that pull the action in the current moment, rather than what happened yesterday pushes me to the present and I continue the yesterday and make it even worse, you see. And that is the reason why we start looking at what guides me to the purpose and needs, rather than what goads me to what I do right now. And what you might have read in the popular literature, the red, this one is what we generally call as, let me go and show you. Right. Is it coming still? Wow. So this one, right, is what is called reaction. And this one is what is called responding, right? We say, don't react, respond. How? Tell me how now. Be good now. How? Tell me how. This is how. If we are purpose oriented, if we are clear about our values, we can always be guided about what I need to do now based on what I need to get in future. And so I will be responding to things when my purpose is well wired inside me. If I lose sight of that purpose, then the mind starts getting a little distracted and going here and there. Okay. Now the 4 steps we talked about is the first, the ideal step out there would be, naturally, I want to be correct without any effort. Automatically, I'm a perfect person or something like that. No, I do the right thing effortlessly. And for that, I need to work from consciously, I do the correct thing. I put some very layman terms. The real term is effortless competence is the top of the chart out here. This is effortless competence. Let me call it effortless competence, right? And for me to be effortlessly competent, I need to start putting effortful competence, which is conscious competence. I consciously put efforts. And for that, I have to be first conscious about my incompetence. I need to watch. I need to be aware of what's happening inside, which is what we did in the last, half a day. And for the starting step for some of us would be, I don't even know where I'm going wrong. So I have not even paid attention to my mistakes or attention to areas of improvement, whichever way you want to see it. And so I need to move from this to this, like this, fly higher and higher, you see. And for that, this cue makes me this. Cue and consequence helps me to move from I know I need to improve here to I know that I have made the right decision here. Cue and consequence. As we keep going, there are 2 golden principles. One is a quantum principle, other one is a psychological principle, which you're going to see now, which will ensure that if you get here, which is knowingly do what is right, deliberately practice the best practices, it will lead us to a newly wired system in the head, which becomes effortless. You see. And that is the beauty of these 4 steps out here. And now let us discuss some little more stuff. As I told you earlier, what fires together in the head wires together. So it means we start working together with the cue and consequence and start getting that practice of doing the right thing when before that, obviously, these steps happen. These 3 steps which I showed you. Unknowingly, I do a problem. And then knowingly, I observe that I can do better than this. And then finally, I actually start putting efforts to put the right efforts, take the right decisions, and do the right thing. But then the last one, the naturally correct, is the highest. We can fly high with that. And that becomes effortless. And now it's wired and it's taken care. Every now and then I need to, just make sure it is happening okay, reinforce a bit, right? And this wiring together and firing together happens in this area, right? That's where it happens, when I move from this bird to that bird. And this is one principle. And then there is another lovely principle called, where is it? இதெல்லாம் பார்த்தா நீங்க இப்படிதான் சொல்லுவேன். ஓகே, சரிதான் போப்பான் பேலணும், அதுக்கு தான் சொன்னேன். It is the power of paying attention. போப்பான்னா, the power of paying attention is actually researched multidisciplinarily. And oh my God, this is having a lovely time. Now it's working. Let me go this. And now, does it work now? Good. All right. This was the POPA, which POPA didn't work well. The power of paying attention is the POPA. When somebody says POPA, that's the cue for you. Okay. Power of paying attention. There is something called as a quantum Zeno effect. It's some Greek stuff. I don't think we need to go there. But I'll quickly tell you what it means. Without that, Zeno looks more like zero. Zeno, he was an ancient Greek philosopher, and he apparently told some very nonsensical stuff, which actually was very intelligent, you see. He said, when an archer releases an arrow, because at any given point of time, fractal of time, arrow does not move. Even when you pull the arrow and release the arrow should not move at all. Because at any given point of time, it does not move. And the whole phenomena happens as the small addition of these infinitesimal periods of time. So it does not move at all, is what he said. And people understood that it is a limit theory. Let it do it later. But here, quantum physicists found something interesting. They said a particle's time evolution can be arrested by measuring it frequently enough. You see, if you keep on measuring a subatomic particle, it has the capability to arrest its time evolution, which means it does not age, for example. On the level. And physics-wise, I don't know, I can't stand by it. This is generally understood by people. And I have just cut-pasted Wikipedia. That's why grammar la kuda konjam problem irukku. But then, forget the physics. Let us look at the actual system elements of it. Systemically, what it says is, a system cannot change when you are watching it. Huh? That is the power of attention. Now, very strict quantum physicists will object to it. Huh? That's fine. I'm not trying to disprove a quantum physics theory. I'm trying to draw parallels from what could be derived from a particle physics to our day-to-day living, using some simple rules of how do I take care of my mind and live intelligently. Now, let me change that physics into the flowering of psychology. What it really means is, when you watch with awareness, you hold the new habit long enough, it wires. You see, when we actually have awareness towards today morning, I have woken up and I'm going to go and sit down and do that dhyanam or whatever meditation. After dhyanam, don't stretch it too much. Ensure you stop the meditation while it is still joyful. You see, ஆரம்பிக்கலையே 1 hour உட்காந்துட்டா இங்காடி அங்காடி all the அங்காடி வேண்டாம். What we need to do is very simple. 10 minutes, not 10 minutes. When it is still sweet, you stop and look at the consequence. I really enjoyed it. So, they generally say, you quit when it is still going well for you type of a thing happens true for meditation also. And then if you are aware, next day morning, consciously, I woken up at 5:30. Now I'm going to do dhyana. So you are watching what you are actually thinking inside. When you hold it for a long enough time, that becomes your nature. What? Not only the habit, but the habit of watching and habit also becomes your nature. You become aware. So habit forming is process level, and being aware of the habit is the system level. Both becomes your second nature, and you become more empowered as we go in there, you see. And that's what is called, what do we call as a Q-Zeno effect, you see. And so how do we use this effect? Very simple. When we actually want to change, or when we want to introduce a change or a transformation in us, we need to first work out what should trigger it. And the trigger should be the part of my existing habits. What do you call it? Piggyback on an existing habit. Hang your clothes on an existing hanger. So look at the existing habits and try to work around a new habit around the existing habit. For example, if it is a walk, you can say, maybe a walk after I do this or before I do this, and I have a cue. And then I start the habit, as we discussed yesterday, in small steps. Small steps. Let's start small and slowly build. Because you are not only trying to build a habit there, you're also trying to build a more empowered, aware person who understands, appreciates life better. So we have a bigger purpose there. So there's no hurry there. Let's start small, slowly. And then after the act is over, spend a little time to be a little Velcro for the positive impact that altered habit had in me. That will help me to do a temporary firing out here. And then I repeat it. In India, 48 days. And in 48 days, you do with awareness, not absently. It will certainly rewire us. And it becomes our second nature. And be watchful. Every now and then, when there are exceptions, let there be exceptions, and don't allow the exceptions to be more than one. then we get back that. Otherwise, the piano's axiom na 1, 2 na n I don't. You see, and that is the reason why we need to focus on completely being aware, and first to motivate ourselves, to inspire ourselves, we need to understand this is a part of my purpose journey, and that's why I'm here in the first place. And hence, other things don't matter when it comes to this decision. This is how you have to motivate. Na? Otherwise, very easy to be distracted. And that is what is called the Q Zeno or the quantum Zeno effect. And you can, of course, go to Google and do your own study for people who are more passionate about this. And I found that to be absolutely exciting. And this was actually put in place by a person who taught in Chennai and who worked in UT Austin and who was from Kerala. So I think we sampled the room well today. And and that person's name is George Sudarshan Pere. He had a lot of talks with Jiddu Krishnamurti also. He proposed this, and I believe there is a story of some controversy with Nobel Prize also. And it's still a controversy. But that's not the point. The point is, he talked with Jiddu Krishnamurti, and our Jiddu Krishnamurti ji or Krishna ji quotes this for his way of meditation, saying that an entity is altered if you pay attention to it. And generally, when we do dhyana or meditation in the morning, we find the mind going here and there, isn't it? The mind is very inattentive to start with. And when a child asked him about that, he very beautifully said, why don't you pay attention to inattention? You see, be attentive about inattention. Don't try to correct it. Don't try to make it right. Don't try to judge it. Don't rationalize it. Don't condemn it. Watch it. Be aware. Sit down. Mind is going there. Oh, the mind is going there. That's it. Watch, watch, watch. Now what he's done very beautifully is, in the process level, there is inattention. But as a system, you are paying attention to the inattention. Slowly, top down, we get into the state of attention. Idhukku pratyaharamnu peru yogathila. Yogathila pratyaharam does not mean pull the mind. Now, how do you pull the mind? Where is there? I can't even grip it properly. Pratyaharam means complete awareness about my inattention. And when I am paying attention to that inattention, because the system is being observed, it tends to behave silently. It doesn't alter. What does it mean? It doesn't alter. It tends to vary a little, become wavy a little lesser. You see, that's how simple it is if we practice. And for that awareness, we need to first be aware about the feelings which we have. Very important. That when I am upset, when we sit down and say, I am feeling so and so, when that little awareness of my feeling, which is the outermost expression of something happening inside, that is the open door for me. Once I am aware of the feeling, it points to the next door called need. And once I see the door of need, my feeling has done most of its job, because it has pointed out. And it does not make us suffer much. The pain may linger a little bit, but then it has done the job, so it empowers us actually. And the feeling won't go, but it won't make us suffer. And the feeling is there for an indication, right? And it has done its job, then we won't suffer because I have that feeling. I still have that feeling. And that is how we slowly go in this path of rewiring ourselves to become a transformed person, to be a transformed human. It's possible. And how we do that? Small steps. Start with acceptance. As acceptance is a good start. Second, start trying something new every day. Try something new in line with purpose. New Pudu series in Netflix is not what I'm propagating. Something new in line with the purpose. Of course, you need entertainment. Why do you need to even talk about it? That's not the point here. Start something new so that I can test my capability to rewire my head. Start something new. Say walk, or just sit, or read, or whatever, I don't know. You decide. It's up to you and me. Try something new every now and then to keep the system in alertness. Do you know something called fire drill they do? Huh? Fire drill na first I thought fire drill Pata, when I was in the American firm, they suddenly raised an alarm. And I said, why are they raising the alarm? It is a fire drill, but I don't see the fire. That is the drill part of what I told you. You see, there is no fire, but you have to be alert, be prepared. Suddenly I raise an alarm, now people won't react. So they want to see not only the system, not only this door was supposed to be closed. Why was it not closed? This door was supposed to be open. Why is it not open? All those little deficiencies come out when I'm secure so that I fix it when I need it the most. You see the fire drill thing? It's a lovely thing to learn from fire drills. Fire drills prepares us to understand deficiencies in the system which we otherwise won't notice. Fire drill, when it is done properly, also gives us tremendous confidence. If suppose there is a fire tomorrow, I am prepared because I have done it. You see, that's also giving me. So generally, when the mind is secure, it is far more innovative. It is far more plastic. And we can bring in new wirings only when the mind is in that state of calmness. There is strength in calmness. But when we are already agitated, it may be too late for us to start working on wiring then. Let us do a wire drill. You see, let us start practicing, trying something new every day, bringing a little bit of newness or novelty to our life. Apart from that, strengthening my system of I can adapt, strengthening my system of I can rewire my head, etc. Strengthening the system of all those stuff. You see, and that is the reason why our Swamiji asked me to say these two things first. He said, let people try something new every now and then. Can be a new book, etc. And then I asked, how do I present it? He said, Yosi, you think. A Mahatma will never spoon feed. Because if I am demanding tremendous effort to understand and to apply, the one who speaks should also do that, to think through. And if somebody spoon fed me and I just give back that spoon feed to you, then the spoon will be passed down. Nothing will happen, you see. So he said, work it out. And then I remembered all those things he said in the past. And, I tried to put all that as logically possible. I am a left-handed person. So my logic konjam appadiyada irukum. But the overall picture correct munju. Generally when people are in the band, some of our children are in the band, the success of the band I have realized somehow approximately finish when others are finishing. Nadula, whatever you play, who knows, whether it is Beethoven, Mozart, Bach, who knows, you see. So when you all finish in the same time, and everybody, if it doesn't happen, grand success of the band, that's what is these people who are very musically very sharp and all, they may know this G sharp. But for normal people, when everybody finishes at the same time, somehow, and the symphony of my ideas, I'm telling, there won't be any open loops for you to, bother about. And so I really feel it's an adventurous journey, it's a joyful journey, it's an exciting journey, because you have to challenge yourself. If you don't challenge yourself, others will, the world will, rat race will. Challenge is what we all need. Otherwise, we are not complete humans. Let us create our own challenges and be ready. And then rat race won't matter. And the rats won't distract people, you see. And that's the reason why we need to challenge ourselves. You have to challenge ourselves to make sure we don't join the rat race. And how do we actually challenge ourselves is try something new. And that new should be in line with purpose. We won't get the inspiration to do it. And once we try it new, use this principle, simple principles. And to make sure that we are not distracted, diverted, our energies of emotions and intellect is not frittered away, I addressed two things. Yesterday, I focused on how do I plug the negatives so that I don't lose and fritter my energy. I don't burn it away by acceptance. Today we said, let me strengthen the positives by, adding awareness and reflection of what went right, asking the question why, journal it if you want to, etc. So that I enhance my positivity, I hold my gains, and I grow on my gains. You see, both are important. I can keep filling the pot. But then if there are a lot of holes in the pot, then whatever I feel will fritter away. You see. And when I have to enhance positivity, I have to also ensure that I don't bleed in negativity. So I have taken care of that yesterday, and we all discussed that, and I got some very good feedback. Many of you, I don't know how many of you were listening yesterday, but I got inundated with messages, and I felt very happy. I read most of them. And all of you said that I caught myself. It was all going very well until 11:59, when I said, oh, I should have actually written it down. I felt on 1 minute la poche, and all those stuff, you see. And it was fun, isn't it? But then in the fun liye, we can actually grow in our old stuff. And the beauty is, make it joyful for us to grow. Don't make it a chore. And if you do it as a group, as a family unit, very easy. It will be a joyful time as a family together. If your youngsters join, it will be even better for you. You don't need a better monitor than your own youngsters. They would be jumping on every ninga. I know, we need them. Child is the father of man. And that's what it is. So, joyful journey. We'll continue these discussions next weekend also. Next weekend, what I'm going to do is this. We are going to play a small storyline. And I'm going to tell you 2 stories this weekend, this Saturday. VPD. V stands for I am a victim. P stands for I'm a persecutor. And D stands for I need a distraction. Right? And we will try to convert that story into I am a master, somebody is challenging me, and I need a source of energy, or I need a coach so that I can cope up. This is how most of the teleserials are made of. Unfortunately, MC kadayadu, they are typically VPD teleserials. There will always be a crying person in a serial. There will always be a persecutor. And there will always be an escape, or all varuvan, with a shoulder to cry on. You see, and then the whole story becomes very interesting. But the beauty with the triangle is, triangle cannot exist without any of the vertices. So if the moment you imagine you are a victim, you will always find a persecutor, you will always find a distraction. Somebody to blame, somebody to binge, somebody to be distracted, all the addiction. And the D, it is called Kali. All the problems we have, the 4 things in Kali, is because I want a distraction, because I fashioned myself to be a victim. And I can change the way I look without changing anything outside, without even changing people outside or people's perspective. The moment I look at the same situation as MCE, இது நான் பிளான் பண்ணல. The EMC I didn't plan. அப்படி வந்துருது. What happened was, this will immediately become master, and this is a challenge. Remember, I need a challenge myself. If I don't have a challenge, somebody will give me. And he is a source of energy, an expert, a coach, to help me, empower me, so that I can meet the challenge. I don't need pity. Here, a distractor, a escape will always give pity. You see. And you feel that person, that's what we feel generally. But generally, a person who empowers us and not makes us drown in pity is really our well-wisher, isn't it? When our Arjuna cried, what did Krishna do? லூசாடா நீன்னு கேட்கிறாரு. அதே வார்த்தை. இன்ஃபேக்ட் நான் ரொம்ப டீசெண்டா பேசினேன். கிருஷ்ணர் பேசினது ஒன்னும் ஸ்ட்ராங் வேர்டு. ஏன்னா he's an empowerer. And he didn't want to give a shoulder, even though he's his close friend, to cry. He empowered Arjuna. He said, I won't take a weapon for you. You will solve your problem. You will fight your war. And because I am going to be your catalyst in your journey of success, you shall be victorious. You see? Adhan beauty. Adhan divinity. You see? And that is what we'll see next week. And this week, we saw important two things, two take-homes for the week. And the two take-homes of the week is how do we become stronger, which is how do I fight non-acceptance is by awareness. And then immediately self-talk is what I tell myself. And what I talk to myself is also called thoughts. How do I change my thoughts is how do I change my self-talk? And instead of could have, would have, should have, how can I replace that with what needs to be done, what can be done, what is the purpose, etc. What help do I need? That's also. And today we talked about how do I register positive to improve my general health of positivity. How do I do that? And that's what we discussed.